A doctor, a friend, a trusted figure in his community, but beneath the facade, a killer hiding in plain sight. Who was Dr. Harold Shipman, and how did he get away with murder for so long? Dr. Harold Shipman was not just a doctor. He was a figure that the community turned to for care and comfort. In the small town of Hyde, England, Shipman earned the trust of hundreds, if not thousands, of patients over his career. He was seen as a professional, a friend, and a reliable doctor who cared for the elderly and sick. But this trusted figure had a dark secret. He was a serial killer who murdered more than 250 people, many of whom were his patients. His method was so subtle, so carefully crafted, that for decades, no one suspected a thing. As we dive into this chilling tale, we will uncover the disturbing story of how Shipman concealed his horrific acts right under the noses of those who trusted him most. How did this well-respected doctor get away with such gruesome murders for so long? What eventually led to his capture? And what was his true motive behind such a cold and calculated killing spree? Stick around as we unravel the mystery behind one of the world's greatest serial killers. Shipman's dark journey began in 1974, when he first started his career at a hospital in the small town of Pontefract. He was a young doctor eager to make his mark, but struggled with a hidden addiction to painkillers, particularly a drug known as pethidine. This addiction would follow him throughout his career, although at first it was merely a personal battle. By the late 1970s, Shipman moved to the small town of Hyde, where he would become a trusted general practitioner at the Donnybrook Medical Center. He was seen as a kind and competent doctor, always offering a listening ear to his elderly patients. However, it was in 1993 that Shipman took a more sinister turn. He opened his own clinic in Hyde, away from the oversight of other doctors, and it was here that his killing spree began. No longer constrained by the eyes of colleagues, Shipman's obsession with controlling life and death grew stronger. His patients, mostly elderly, frail, and often suffering from chronic illnesses, became easy targets. What once seemed like a promising medical career was now spiraling into something much darker. Dr. Shipman's method was calculated and cold. He specifically targeted the elderly, those who lived alone, and those who were suffering from terminal illnesses. His victims were often people who were already close to death, which made his actions harder to detect. By offering them comfort and care, Shipman gained their trust, leading many of his patients to believe he was their friend, someone who would help them pass on peacefully when the time came. But Shipman's true intentions were far from caring. He would overdose his patients with lethal doses of diamorphine, also known as heroin, causing their deaths to appear natural or simply a consequence of old age. His victims died quietly, often in their own homes, with no signs of foul play. To further cover his tracks, Shipman would sign their death certificates himself, marking old age as the cause of death. In many cases, he even advised the families to cremate the bodies, ensuring there was no physical evidence left to challenge his story. His method was so seamless that for years, no one questioned the mysterious deaths piling up under his care. Dr. Shipman's ability to evade suspicion for so long can largely be attributed to his reputation. He was seen as the ideal doctor, a kind, compassionate man who cared deeply for his patients. Particularly with the elderly, Shipman was considered a lifeline, offering solace and a sense of security to those who often felt abandoned. His patients trusted him implicitly, believing that he had their best interests at heart. One of Shipman's key strategies was his control over the death certificates. As the attending doctor, he would routinely sign the forms and list old age as the cause of death, making the process seem natural and unremarkable. The fact that his patients were mostly elderly and living alone worked in his favor. No one questioned their deaths. The families, often grieving and overwhelmed by loss, trusted the doctor's judgment, and with cremation often advised, there was no chance for autopsy or further investigation. This manipulation of death certificates, combined with his community standing, allowed Shipman to operate undetected for years. Despite growing suspicion from some quarters, no one had concrete evidence. His patients' deaths were simply too discreet, and Shipman's charm and professional reputation were enough to keep the spotlight off him. It wasn't until the brave efforts of one of his former colleagues, Dr. Linda Reynolds, that the first cracks began to appear in Shipman's perfect facade. Dr. Harold Shipman's long reign of terror might have continued unchecked, if not for a crucial mistake. In March 1998, Dr. Linda Reynolds, a fellow GP in the same town, started noticing something unsettling about Shipman's practice. The number of deaths among his patients seemed unusually high. In a small community like Hyde, this raised alarm bells. Over just 3 months, Shipman's clinic saw 16 deaths, a startling statistic when compared to a nearby hospital where far fewer deaths occurred in the same period. What was even more troubling was that many of these deaths were followed by the immediate cremation of the bodies, making it nearly impossible to investigate further. Reynolds' suspicions grew stronger when she learned that Shipman was regularly recommending cremation, which prevented any further inquiry into the causes of death. This was highly irregular, and while it was common for doctors to recommend cremation, the frequency with which Shipman did so seemed excessive. But it wasn't until a case involving one of Shipman's patients, Kathleen Grundy, that the investigation began to unravel. The case of Kathleen Grundy, a respected former mayor of Hyde, became the turning point in the investigation. When Kathleen passed away in June 1998, her daughter Angela was shocked to discover that her mother had changed her will just days before her death, leaving everything to Shipman. Angela's suspicions were immediately piqued. Why would her mother, a healthy and active woman, leave everything to a doctor who had no close familial relationship with her? This prompted Angela to push for an autopsy, which ultimately revealed traces of diamorphine in Kathleen's system, a substance that would have caused her death. This discovery set the wheels of investigation into motion. The autopsy results from Kathleen Grundy's body provided the first concrete evidence of foul play, but it wasn't until further investigation that the full scope of Shipman's crimes began to emerge. Forensic experts examined Shipman's medical records and discovered disturbing patterns. One crucial breakthrough came when authorities scrutinized Shipman's computer logs. They found that a medical journal entry had been falsified, which led investigators to question the authenticity of Shipman's record-keeping. Further investigation revealed that many of the deaths Shipman had documented were not natural, but part of his calculated murder spree. Another shocking piece of evidence came when a typewriter used to create the fraudulent will found in Kathleen Grundy's case was traced back to Shipman. This not only linked Shipman to the forgery, but also raised suspicions about other potential forged documents he may have been involved in. As investigators dug deeper, they found discrepancies in the official death certificates of many of Shipman's patients. Patterns began to emerge. Patients who were alone, elderly, and often terminally ill, all dying under suspicious circumstances, with their deaths concealed behind false medical documentation and cremation requests. On September 7, 1998, after months of mounting evidence, Dr. Harold Shipman was arrested. His capture marked the beginning of the end for a man who had evaded justice for so long. As the investigation unfolded, the chilling scale of Shipman's crimes became apparent. Initially, authorities confirmed that 218 of Shipman's patients had died at his hands. However, as forensic experts continued to re-examine old death certificates, the true scope of his actions came into sharper focus. Some estimates suggest that the final death toll could be as high as 260 victims, though the exact number will never be known for certain. What was clear was that Shipman's method had been disturbingly consistent. He used lethal doses of diamorphine to induce death, signing falsified death certificates to cover his tracks, and always ensuring that cremation was arranged to remove any evidence that could lead to his exposure. As investigators pieced together the puzzle, they began to speculate on Shipman's motive. Many believed psychological factors played a significant role. Shipman's own mother had died when he was a young man, and some theorized that her painful and drawn-out death might have influenced his desire to control life and death. Others pointed to greed and the possibility that Shipman had enjoyed the power he wielded over his patients' lives and estates. He was known to have forged wills in at least 2 cases, suggesting that financial gain could have been a contributing factor. Yet, despite all the theories, the true reason behind Shipman's horrifying spree remains a subject of intense debate. The discovery of Shipman's crimes shocked the world, highlighting the terrifying reality that a trusted professional could be hiding such a monstrous side. For the families of his victims, the truth was even more devastating. The man they had trusted with their loved one's care had betrayed them in the most unimaginable way. The aftermath of Dr. Harold Shipman's arrest was nothing short of catastrophic for the local community and the medical profession at large. The public was stunned, and a deep sense of betrayal spread throughout the town of Hyde. Shipman had been a respected figure, trusted by hundreds of families, and the realization that he had been murdering patients for years sent shockwaves through the community. People who had once called him a friend now grappled with the horrifying truth that their loved ones had been killed by someone they had trusted with their health. The pain of losing family members was compounded by the betrayal, as many felt they had been misled by the very man who was supposed to protect them. In the legal realm, Shipman was convicted in 2000 of 15 murders, though the evidence suggested he may have been responsible for far more deaths. Many experts believe that his actual body count was in the hundreds, with estimates ranging as high as 260 victims. The official inquiry, known as the Shipman Inquiry, found that Shipman had killed patients for at least 23 years, often selecting elderly or terminally ill individuals who were unlikely to have their deaths scrutinized. Despite the conviction, many felt that the case was still incomplete and that justice had not been fully served for all the victims. In 2004, while serving his sentence in Wakefield Prison, Shipman was found dead in his cell, having hanged himself. His death added another layer of mystery to the case, leaving many unanswered questions. Why had Shipman chosen to end his life? Was it a final act of control, an escape from the consequences of his actions, or something else entirely? His suicide prevented any opportunity for further interrogation, and the true extent of his motivations may never be fully understood. Psychological theories regarding Shipman's motive have been widely discussed. Some analysts suggest that Shipman's need for control and power over life and death played a significant role in his actions. Shipman was known to be a highly methodical and calculating individual, which suggests a deep psychological need to dominate those around him. For him, killing may have been about exercising ultimate control, particularly over vulnerable individuals who had no choice but to trust him. The possibility that his mother's painful death had a profound impact on his psyche also cannot be ignored. These factors likely combined to create the perfect storm that led to his reign of terror. The case of Dr. Harold Shipman serves as a chilling reminder that even the most trusted individuals can harbor the darkest secrets. Shipman was a man who was revered as a community pillar, but underneath that facade, he was responsible for one of the most horrifying killing sprees in medical history. His crime shattered the trust between doctor and patient and raised questions about the vetting process for medical professionals. How did a trusted figure like Shipman manage to conceal his horrific actions for so long? As we reflect on Shipman's legacy, we are left with more questions than answers. What made him commit such atrocities? Was it a thirst for power, financial gain, or something deeper within his psyche? We may never know for certain, but his case serves as a stark reminder that sometimes the darkest minds can hide in plain sight, manipulating those around them without suspicion. If you found this story as horrifying as I did, don't forget to like, share, and comment. What do you think drove Shipman to commit such atrocities? Was it his need for control, the trauma of his past, or something else? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.